Hi guys, welcome back to Lunch Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Today we're going to be making some stir-fried beef with noodles. And to take off, it's actually a teriyaki stir-fried beef with noodles. And to start off, we're going to be using some beef. And the beef I'm using a prime cut here, and the cut I'm using is sirloin steak. Now you could easily use a ribeye cut, or you could use something like a T-bone cut. You just remove the bone. And you could also use a fillet. That's the fillet. You could use the fillet. I would suggest you avoid using something that's a little tough because you want your meat to cook quite fast. So try and use one of the prime cuts. But that's not to say that you can't use one of the other cuts if your budget is a little tight. Okay, and then we're going to be using some vegetables. And the vegetables we're using are some onions, some ginger, some garlic, some capsicums. I'm using some assorted capsicums, some carrots, as well as some broccoli. And then the spices I've got some salt, sesame seeds, some cayenne pepper, some black pepper, some teriyaki sauce, some oyster sauce, and some sugar. And for this spice, this is just the regular spice you get when you buy your store-bought noodles. So this is my store-bought noodles, and this is the spice you get. In this case, I'm using chicken noodles, and this is the packaging you get with it, this pre-mixed seasoning you get with it, as well as some oils now, and of course some parsley. So before we get started, before you guys tune in and you see what we're going to do with this lovely food, we're going to go for a tiny break, and when we get back, you guys are going to kick off and start with me. See you in a little bit. Hi guys, welcome back to Lunch Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. If you just tuned in and you might have missed out, don't worry, you haven't missed out much. I only did an introduction of what we're going to be making, which is some teriyaki beef stir-fry with noodles. And I mentioned what the ingredients are. So to start off, we're going to be starting with the beef, which I'm going to just start cutting it. But before that, I'm going to put my water so that it can start boiling. This is the water for the noodles. So I'm just going to light my stove here. Sorry. So we're just going to light the stove. Give it some time to light. Okay, there we are. And then I'm going to add some water. This water is for my noodles. Okay, so we're going to let that come to a boiling point, and then we're not going to season it because the noodles already have their own seasoning, which is what I'm going to choose to use. In the meantime, I'm going to start cutting up my vegetables and my meat. So to start off with, I'm cutting my meat. Like I've mentioned, I'm using a prime cut here of meat, which you could actually do. I would suggest that because it's going to be a lot softer and a lot faster to cook, and it's not going to be tough on you. So I'm just cutting my meat into strips, as you can see. Now another cut you could use is ribeye. If you're just tuning in, you could use something like ribeye or a fillet or T-bone steak, which you could just remove now the bone from. So again, if you look at my cut, it doesn't have much fat, so I've just retained a little bit of the fat just for the flavor, but then you could totally omit it. So again, I've mentioned I'm using a sirloin steak cut. So then to kick off, we're going to put on the heat. We're going to put on the heat. And then while that is heating, I'm going to start cutting my other vegetables. I'm going to turn my boards just because I've used that other side to cut my meat. I don't want cross-contamination. And then I'm going to wash my knife just a little bit, just so it's clean. Again, avoiding cross-contamination here. Then wipe it, and then we're going to get started. So for the vegetables, I'm using some carrots, as I've mentioned, some onions, some ginger, some garlic. So I'll start off by slicing my onion. And then once my pan is hot enough, I'm going to start off with my meat. So for stir fry, most times it requires your vegetables to be ready beforehand so that when you start putting in things, you're ready. But for viewership purposes and me showing you, I'm going to do this as we go along so that you can see it's quite simple and you don't have to worry too much about it. So you don't feel like it's something that will take you hours and hours, because it won't. It will take you quite a short time. So again, I'm just slicing my capsicums. I mentioned I'm using assorted capsicums. So once this is hot enough, reduce the heat, add your oil, a bit of oil. We're going to add a bit of oil here as well. This is the water for the noodles. Again, these are just pre-bought noodles, which I'm just going to throw in there. And then once that starts to soften, I'm going to move that around so that everything can soften nicely and cook evenly. For my meat, I'm going to season it with a bit of some salt and some black pepper, not too much, and some black pepper. Yes, here we are. So I don't want to overdo it with the salt at this stage because I plan to use the teriyaki sauce. Teriyaki sauce is quite sweet by itself, but if you didn't have teriyaki sauce, you could use now some oyster sauce as well as some soy sauce with some sugar. Okay, so once your pan is hot, and you can see it's literally smoking hot, so let me just give that a minute to cool, otherwise it will be too hot, and we don't want that. Well, that one got away, nothing gets away. Okay, so we're just going to put our meat now in the pan, and you can hear the sizzle. Gently spread that, don't be afraid of the heat. And then move that around gently. Then we're going to get some tongs and then just move those gently, because this is a non-stick pan, so you have to be very careful not to scratch the bottom. So that's all I'm going to do there. Place this aside, then check on our noodles. So get a fork. So again, when you're cooking in the kitchen, you have to be a bit fast, or you have to try and multitask whatever you're cooking. That's the only way you're able to cook your meals quickly and you don't spend a lot of time in the kitchen. If, for example, you're a person who doesn't like to spend so much time in the kitchen, or you find the kitchen intimidating. So for this, I've just turned my noodles, and this I'm going to saute this. That happens sometimes, don't worry about the flambe. It's mainly because of the fire, it's mainly because of the oil in the pan, so that tends to happen. So it's nothing to be scared about. So anytime you get a flambe in your pan, just let it set and the fire will die down. Okay, our meat is browning nicely. So we just want this to brown. And I love stir fries, because stir fries are something that you can make very easily. You can make them at home, you can make them for your friends. It's something that's very fast and quick, and most times it can use leftover ingredients, and it will always have a fresh vibe to it. So I'm just continuing cutting my capsicums. I mentioned I'm using colored capsicums. Again, you could use whatever vegetables you have in the house. I just wanted to use different ones, so as to have a pop of color in the food. So the kitchen is going to get a bit smoky. Don't worry about that. Again, it's time to toast. That happens like I've mentioned. So toast some more. Let it die down. Now, if your toasting skills are not that great, again, just use your tongs or use a wooden spoon. Check on your noodles. Okay, this is good enough. So I'm now going to put this off. So I'm going to put that off and also check on my noodles. So for our noodles, we're going to have a look at them, and as you can see, they're already soft, and as I mentioned, these are just store-bought noodles. So what you want to do is set this aside and peel them because they cook very quickly. Yes, and to me these are done. So just sieve this, strain them. I'm going to get my strainer, which is a colander. So strain them, and that's it. So yes, we're going to move this here. I hope you can have a look and see. So our noodles are done. So we're going to drizzle a bit of oil in there. And then like I mentioned, these were just store-bought noodles that came with their own seasoning. So I'm going to dump this in here as well. And then I'm going to just toss this, and our noodles are done for now. That's it. So we're going to focus now on the rest of the meal. Once the noodles are done, we just place this aside. So that is pretty good for now. It's done. So for the meat, we're going to place it aside. So once your meat browns, and this is the nice color you're looking for, the nice golden brown color. So it's time for you to set your meat aside. And I like to do this just so I can ensure that my meat is going to have a nice crust. Okay, so we're going to put that there. And then now it's time to go back to our vegetables and proceed with the cutting. So yes, so I was cutting my vegetables. So far we had cut our capsicums, we've cut our onions. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut my carrots. And you can cut this whichever style you want, but since I'm cutting this thinly, I'm going to try and do the same thing with my carrots. So just nice thin slices. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Again, this is a really nice simple dish because it's got all the colors and it's colorful, and it's also very quick to make. You can make this with your leftover pasta as well. Instead of using noodles, you could use pasta. You could also use some rice. So you can definitely be creative and make it your own. So there we go with my carrots. So I've diced them just a little bit larger, but they're still thin. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get some garlic. Now I love garlic, so I never feel like you can have too much. But if you don't like garlic, then try and use a little less. Okay, so we're going to cut this. And some ginger. Again, I'm going a bit heavy on the ginger. So we're just going to peel this. And then now slice it. So whatever I'm making is a really simple dish that you can do at home. When you bash your knife, this allows for the skin to be peeled easily. So you don't have to peel one at a time with your knife. You know the struggle, you don't have to do that. The bashing just makes it a lot easier for you to peel. As you can see, they come off very easily. The skin comes off very easily. Okay, so then we're going to slice this. Oh, one got away from me. I'll just add another one. Okay, so we're going to chop this. And so what I'm trying to do here is get all my vegetables ready, just so that when I add them to my stir fry mix, everything is going to be ready and I'm not going to be running around trying to chop something that I forgot to chop. Which is why I mentioned earlier that when you're making a stir fry, it's kind of like essential for you to make sure that all your vegetables are actually ready. Because a stir fry requires you to be pretty quick when you're mixing all your ingredients. So I'm just going to add this here. And another garlic, like I mentioned, I like garlic. And since one has gotten away from me, I'm just going to go ahead and add another one. Now you could add as little or as much garlic as you'd like. It's all a preferential taste. Now this is something you could do easily for a dinner date if you're at home. So you could do this at home for a dinner date because it's quick and simple and it shouldn't require you to take so much time in the kitchen. You could even make it fun and ask your dates to actually cook with you. So that's something you could do. So now that most of my vegetables are actually cut, I'm going to go ahead and start off with my heat in the pan. And then when that is going on, I'm going to go ahead and start chopping my broccoli. But again, as I've mentioned, you just want to make sure that most of your vegetables are ready. I'm using the same pan just because I want to retain whatever juices have been left in the pan. So the nice caramelization that's going in the pan, that's not to be wasted. So let's go ahead and start this on low heat, sorry. So we're going to go ahead and start this on low heat. So there we go. So as that is heating up, I'm going to add my onions in here. We're going to add my onions in here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and start cutting my broccoli. So for my broccoli, I'm just cutting this into frolets, and that's what you call them. That's basically when you remove them from the stem. They then become frolets. And you can see that just because of the way they look, nice and pretty. So again, just cut them into small bits. And then we're going to go ahead and start sauteing that. So once the pan is hot, again, always try and pay attention to whatever it is that you're doing in the kitchen. Have a listening ear. We haven't added any oil in here, so I'm now going to add some oil. So some good amount of oil, because this is a stir fry. And then we're going to saute this. So we're going to go ahead and saute that. And then we're going to add our vegetables. Again, if you like your tossing, go ahead and do this. If you're not able to, just make sure you have a wooden spoon with you. Then add your ginger and garlic. So add your ginger and garlic, then add the rest of your vegetables. So in this case, I'm going to add my carrots, as well as my broccoli that I've just chopped up. And remember to always wash your vegetables beforehand. My vegetables are already washed. So we're going to go ahead and just add the remaining vegetables and then toss this. I've left out the capsicums just because I like my capsicums a bit on the crunchy side. And then toss. Now I love tossing, but you get used to it. The trick is to tilt the pan and then move it forward upwards. So you tilt it, then move it upwards, tilt it, move it upwards. And once you get used to it, it's a fun way of cooking. You have so much fun with it. So while that is going on, I'm going to then give that like a minute or two so that I can add my capsicums. As I've mentioned, I just like my capsicums a bit crunchy, so I don't want to add them immediately. Then we're going to add our beef, of course. We're using some teriyaki sauce, as well as some teriyaki sauce, as well as some oyster sauce. The difference is that the oyster sauce is a bit thicker, if you can see that, and this is a bit lighter. And teriyaki sauce usually has sugar in it by itself. Okay, so we're going to toss this a bit more. So more tossing. So this is an Asian-inspired dish, obviously, because they tend to do a lot of stir fries. So this is just one of those variations. So I hope I'm doing people from China proud. Okay, so at this stage I'm now going to add on my soy sauce. And then you want to, my teriyaki sauce. A good amount of it. And of course the oyster sauce. So after adding your oyster sauce and your teriyaki sauce, then you're going to saute this. Then now we're going to add our beef. And then again do some more tossing. So you could pretty much get away with this dish without having any wooden cutlery. If you don't know how to toss, then you'll need it. But if you do, then it's an easy way to get away with it without using any other kitchen equipment. Okay, that's looking pretty good and colorful. Look how colorful it looks. It just invites you to want to eat the food. So as that is going on, I'm going to let that cook for just another 5 or so minutes, so that when you guys come back, we're going to finish it off. So we're going to go on a short, tiny commercial break, and I'll see you guys when you get back. Hi guys, welcome back to Lunch Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. If you're just tuning in, we're just about to wrap up, but we're actually making some stir-fried beef teriyaki with some noodles, and we are actually done with the cooking. The beef cooks very, very fast. So if you missed out, whatever this beef has, we've got some mixed vegetables in here, and I opted to add some teriyaki sauce, some oyster sauce, and the mixed vegetables I'm using are some onions, some garlic. I just want to heat this so that I can do one final tossing, as well as some capsicums in here, some carrots, some broccoli. So I'm keeping it simple. You could use whatever vegetables you have in the house, of course. If you don't have broccoli, for example, if you don't have carrots, just use whatever you have and make the dish your own, make it stand out. So I'm using all these colors just so that the food can pop out. This is a very nice, simple dish. So if you're trying to lose weight, let's say, you could definitely have this by itself without the starch if you do want something heavy, or just a bit of the starch, because it's very fast to make and it's filled with vegetables which are good for you nutrition-wise. But as it is complete, it's a complete dish. So this, I'm just going to toss this one last time. So we're just doing some more tossing. Again, if you're tuning in, I love tossing my food. I just feel like there's something about it. It makes the food come all together. But if your skills are not so good in tossing like mine, you can definitely just use your spatula. Yes. So one more toss. Yes, as you can see, I really enjoy doing this. Okay, so that's good enough. That's warmed. And for the good thing about this dish is that it cooks very fast. Once you add all your vegetables, it's always good to make sure that everything is ready. So I'm going to go ahead and just add my noodles. These were just store-bought noodles that I made earlier, and then finish them off with a bit of oil, as well as the packet ingredients. For the noodles, I'm using bought chicken noodles. You could use beef, you could use shrimp, whatever noodles you want to use. So I'm just going to plate this. And then I'm plating this so that you'll be able to see the noodles by themselves. And then I'm going to add my vegetables on the side. Of course, you could definitely add this together if you wanted to. If you wanted to, you could definitely combine this and just make it all into one meal. But I do want to do that. So again, it's a preference. Just make whatever works for you, work for you. So we're going to add our vegetables here, our stir-fried noodles. So we're adding the stir-fried vegetables with beef. And again, you can see these beautiful colors coming together. Our plate already looks lovely by itself. And you're going to get to see all the colors, the beautiful colors. Yes, the food looks great. Yes, it does. Okay, so we're just going to finish that off. And then I'm going to add some parsley, just because I like parsley, of course. But you could use dhania if you wanted to. Whatever vegetables you have, just use that. You don't have to use what I use. Use whatever you have on hand. Like I always say, I'm trying to get you to cook. So if you feel like you don't have the ingredients, you might feel like you're not going to cook, but I need you to. So I'm just topping up the remaining noodles so that you're able to see them. And that one that's trying to get away, nothing gets away in my kitchen. And there we go. The food looks lovely. So we're just going to get a bit of some parsley. You could definitely use some dhania, of course. And then just rinse this. Roughly rinse them. And then we're just going to chop this, just a chop rough. Just a rough chop. Yes, English can be quite difficult sometimes. Okay, so once that's done, we're just going to garnish this Just generously garnish it just around, nothing fancy, and there you have it. Your food is actually done. So that was our lunch today. I'm going to just wipe my hands here. So that was my very simple lunch, something you can try at home. It didn't take me that long to make. Everything you can get from the house. If you don't have this in the house, again, you can go out there and you can buy noodles. Assuming if perhaps you have like pasta, you could use some pasta, but if you don't want to use pasta, you could use rice instead as the starch accompaniment for the dish. And of course, now the vegetables that I used some broccoli, some carrots, some capsicums. So just make the dish your own dish. If you don't have the vegetables I've used, again, use whatever vegetables you have readily available in the house for you. So today I mentioned we're making some teriyaki beef stir fry with noodles. As you've seen, it's a very pretty plate. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the ride along with me. Yes, I'm very happy to be here, and I hope you guys had a good time, because I surely did. So I'll see you guys on the next episode of Lunch Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Be sure to catch us on social media, Brand Plus TV. See you next time.